I used to whisper apologies, just because my family looked different. But today's story isn't about apologies. It's about standing tall. I used to apologize for everything. For existing, for loving differently, for showing up at school meetings alone, for checking the other box on every form. Every time a teacher raised an eyebrow, every time another parent avoided my eyes or hesitated before saying, "Hello," I would shrink a little more. Fold myself into smaller spaces and say, "Sorry. Sorry for being confusing. Sorry for not fitting their polite expectations of a normal family." Sometimes walking into school felt like walking into a silent courtroom, where stares were the gavel, and every silence felt like judgment. I would count the steps to the classroom, my heart pounding in sync with my child's footsteps. I'd grip their small hand just a little tighter, pretending it was for their comfort, when really it was for mine. I remember the school projects: draw your family, interview your mom and dad, bring a family photo. Each time I'd hold my breath, waiting for the questions, waiting for the moment a classmate would tilt their head and ask, "But where's your dad?" We tried to laugh it off, call ourselves Team Us. But inside, I always braced for the storm. Then one day, after a particularly uncomfortable parent-teacher meeting, where I had felt like I was explaining myself more than discussing schoolwork, another mom walked up to me. She gave that tight, practiced smile, the one that hides more than it reveals, and said, "It must be hard for your child." Her words were dipped in politeness, but poisoned with pity. I nodded, smiled, and said the thing I had trained myself to say, "Yeah, sorry." But that evening something changed. I came home, dropped my keys on the counter, and saw my child waiting eagerly by the kitchen table. "I made something," they said. It was a drawing, simple, messy, vibrant. Crayon lines scribbled across the page, a tall figure and a small one, holding hands under a rainbow sky. In shaky letters at the top, it read, "Best family ever." I sat down right there on the floor, the paper trembling in my hands. Tears welled up and turned the colors into rivers, blue, green, yellow, all bleeding into one another just like us. And I realized I wasn't sorry, I wasn't ashamed, I was tired. Tired of apologizing for something that was never broken. Tired of shrinking myself to make room for someone else's discomfort. Tired of asking the world to validate something that was already whole. That night, while my child slept, I stood by their door and watched the rise and fall of their breathing. I remembered the day they were born, the first time I held them, the way they curled into me like they already knew I was home. I remembered the promises I whispered, to protect them, to love them loudly, to never let anyone make them feel like they were less. And I knew I had broken that promise, not with my love, but with my fear. With every apology, I had unintentionally told them that we should be sorry, that our family was less than, that we needed to explain ourselves. So I made a new promise that night. No more apologies, no more folding myself into neat little boxes that were never made for people like us. No more allowing strangers to write our story. The next morning I woke up different. I wore the clothes that made me feel powerful. I let my tattoos show. I spoke with clarity. I smiled first. And when someone gave me that old, questioning look, I didn't look down. I met their gaze and let it pass right through me, like wind against a mountain. At drop-off, I hugged my child like I always do. But this time, I didn't say, "Be good." I said, "Be bold." And from that day forward, I stopped apologizing. I stopped editing my story. I stopped making our love smaller so that others could feel comfortable in their narrow worlds. Our family is not a placeholder. We are not a footnote in someone else's fairy tale. We are the headline. We are the bold print. We are the bright crayon sky on a child's drawing, stubbornly taped to a fridge door. And every time I feel the instinct to shrink, I look at that picture, and and I remember who we are. We are the best family ever. Not because we match expectations, but because we dared to love fully, fearlessly, unapologetically. If you've ever found yourself apologizing just for being who you are, I know how that feels. If this story touched something inside you, leave a comment below. We don't need to apologize for existing, and I'm here, listening,